We're live again! Welcome back to Strongman Personal Finance. We got a sponsored video. I was compensated to make a video about Tandem Diabetes Care Stock, ticker symbol TNDM. Is this stock going to 10x and make you rich? Should you buy this individual diabetes monitoring system, delivery system, manufacturing company? Or should you buy VT? Well, before we dive into this company's fundamentals, I'm going to open my Monster, which is subliminal messaging to buy Monster stock. Anyway, like I said, this is a sponsored video, and if you want me to do a video for you, it's going to cost you a little bit of money, but it's worth it. See the pinned comment below at the conclusion of this live stream. So we're going to talk about Tandem Diabetes Care Incorporated, which I've been requested to make by a woman. I didn't know women watch this channel. I am in shock. I cannot believe my eyes that a woman watches my channel. God bless you, and I apologize for all the disgusting things I say, okay? Tandem Diabetes Care Incorporated, a medical device company, designs, develops, and commercializes technology solutions for people living with diabetes in the United States and internationally. And I have a suspicion diabetes is going to be on the rise internationally. Just my suspicion. The company's flagship product is the T-Slim X2 insulin delivery system, a pump platform for managing insulin delivery and display continuous glucose monitoring sensor information. So basically, you got a system that monitors your insulin. It's like a comprehensive package. It also sells single-use products, including cartridges for storing and delivering, insulin. Okay, so it's a diabetes company. Got it? Makes sense? Let's go look at the financials. It's a diabetes company. Well, first, let's look at the stock price performance. So over the past 5 years, the stock is down 27%. Does that mean it's a bad company? No, it doesn't. Okay? I know you geniuses buy stuff that goes up a lot because you're very smart. You have very big brains. But it's all about future. It's all about future. Okay? But it's up it's up 51% in the last year. It could be anything. It could just be rallying from a bottom, or maybe there's something amazing going on. So let's look at the ratios. So from a PE standpoint, there is no PE. You want to know why? It hasn't been profitable in the last year, at least. Price to sales is almost as low as it's ever been. Price to books going up a little bit, but still much lower than it's ever been. Price to free cash flow is negative. That means this business is generating negative free cash flow. That means the business probably can't return anything to you as the shareholder. They don't have any cash left over to buy back shares, pay dividends. Just saying. As a matter of fact, they're going to be probably issuing debt and or issuing shares to keep their company afloat and to raise cash. And what that does is that reduces your overall profits in the future, because now you're paying interest on the debt, and it lowers your profits because you as a shareholder are now a owner of a smaller piece of the business because the total amount of shares outstanding has increased. That's what happens with cash flow negative businesses. You have like negative returns basically from like just a fundamental standpoint. And then a debt to equity ratio has been skyrocketing. That's concerning. Okay. So that's just from a ratio standpoint. Let's look at the profit and loss. So revenue has grown at a pretty steady, decent clip. Like this company, at least in the near term, did not seem to have a revenue problem. I mean, revenue's up from less than 100 million 5 years ago to over 200 million in the most recent quarter, 220 million. So the revenue is more than doubled. But it's not about revenue. It's about profits and how those profits are returned to you as a shareholder to maximize your return. All right, gross profit is up. So gross profit is growing with revenue. Let's see if the margins have gone up, though. Gross profit margin. So basically, it's been flat. It's hovering around 50%. So if they make an insulin device, am I sharing my screen? Yeah, I am. If they make an insulin device, the cost of making that device is the cost of goods sold. That's how you get the gross margin. It's the gross profit after selling the device, the cost of the device divided by the revenue. So margins have roughly stayed the same. Operating margin, ever since 2022, has been negative. This company's been losing money every single freaking quarter since 2022, and it seems to be getting worse. They're losing more and more as a percentage of revenues. And profit margin is negative since 2022. I can see where the stock went down. And they have negative free cash flow. Share change. Shares have been ticking up slightly, but nothing crazy. Earnings per share, more and more negative. I don't know. Boyos, what do you think about this one? Okay, let's look at cash. Operating cash flow has been negative ever since 2022. Let's see. Have they done anything crazy? Okay, they had some kind of acquisition in 2023, but that's probably why they still got all that debt. Doesn't seem to really have done anything, at least from a profit standpoint. And they've basically used debt and probably some share, it looks like debt mostly, to do an acquisition. So declining margins, growing revenue, declining margins, packed on a bunch of debt for an acquisition that doesn't seem to be playing out that well, at least from a profit standpoint. Issuing shares, issuing debt. So far, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. I want profits. All right, let's look at their balance sheet. So this is Tandem's most recent balance sheet as of June 30th, 2024. So very liquid capital is roughly, you add up the cash, short-term investments, and accounts payable. You got roughly $540 million of very liquid capital. And they have short-term debts of $240 million. So right off the bat, they got enough cash on hand. They got enough short-term investments and enough accounts receivable they expect to come in within the next year, or can just be turned into cash to pay off their short-term debt. So I don't see that as a problem as of June 30th, 2024. However, it's a cash-burning business, and you will see declines in short-term investments in cash over time unless they issue more shares or debt. It's a cash-burning business. Long-term assets, they got property, plant, and equipment with a net value, net of depreciation, of $78 million. A lot of leases and whatever this other long-term assets is, they don't say. Now, here's where the company's balance sheet doesn't look too pretty to me, okay? They're great on a short-term liquidity standpoint, but on a long-term debt versus long-term asset standpoint, it doesn't look that good. Okay, look at this. Convertible senior notes, long-term, $307 million of long-term debt. And they have tangible assets that they actually own of $78 million. So that's a lot of freaking debt. Where's it? Did they write off the entire acquisition? Where's the goodwill? You would think there'd be goodwill on here for this acquisition they did. But whatever. I guess maybe they wrote it all. Maybe they just had a horrible acquisition. I don't know. But they have a huge amount of long-term debt. That's concerning because they're burning money and they don't have a lot of long-term assets. But I mean, it's probably not going to go under within a year. So I guess that's a good thing. All right. Well, let's see. Shares issued and outstanding are down a little bit. That's interesting. We'll see why that happened. And so they have a total of $1 billion of losses over the lifetime of the business. So that's a little concerning. Now we see revenues going up. Selling, general, admin expenses have gone down. Research and development has gone up, but their total operating expenses consume all of their gross profit. So their R&D and selling expenses, or wages and rent and whatever, they're all sales staff, marketing. It's all eating up all of their profits to a pretty significant degree. They're generating interest income because they have a bunch of cash equivalents on their balance sheet, but the interest expense from their debt almost eats all of that up, or it probably will once rates come down. So they're losing money from the core business. They have a slight profit for netting out interest, but that's going to change as rates come down. Let's see. Loss before income taxes. Yeah, I mean, they're not doing that well. Let's see. You got some stock options, stock repurchases. Let's see. All right, statement of cash flows. Let's see what's going on here. So this is the statement of cash flows for the last 6 months. So they had a bottom line loss on the accrual basis of accounting of $73 million. but they only had a $13 million outflow of operating cash flow. Oh, let's see here. Okay. Depreciation is up a little bit, nothing crazy. Stock-based compensation is $46 million. Okay. So basically, a lot of employees have been given stock options, and over the vesting period, those amounts are expensed, but it's a non-cash expense. But it's a future expense of the business or a future cash outflow of the business, because when the employees exercise their stock options, the company tends to buy back shares to reduce that effect. So it's kind of like capturing the cost of that, but in the short term. So stock-based compensation is a huge part of their non-cash expenses, but it's added back. And then we have, let's see. Yep. I mean, basically, their burn of cash is a lot less than the prior quarter, but the prior 6 months, I mean, from the prior year, except the big reason for that is because of they had a huge inventory purchase. They bought a bunch of inventory in the first 6 months of 2023. But I mean, they're a cash burning business. Okay. What are they doing with their cash for investments? Well, they had a $10 million acquisition. Okay. So they seem to spend a lot of their money on acquisitions, including in-process research and development. So they're like buying probably other businesses that are developing improved diabetes monitoring treatment systems. That's what they're doing. At least that's what they did last year. This year, they mostly just shuffled their money between short-term investments and a little bit of purchases of property, plant, equipment, about $10 million worth. So they burnt cash from their operations, from their core business, and they burnt cash in investing activities. Where do they get their money from? Well, they issued convertible notes due in 2029, so they got 5 years here, of $306 million, and they used those to retire notes due in 2025. So they pushed out their debt maturity, is what they did there. All right, but they didn't use all of it. They still had $50 million left over. Payment for capped call transactions related to convertible senior notes. I'm not sure what that is. So they paid off debt coming due next year for debt that's due in 2029. And then they spent $30 million of the proceeds buying back stock. And then they paid more in taxes for stock option exercises than they generated in cash received from employees for exercising those stock options. So basically, they push out their debt and they use a little bit of the money to buy back stock. So, but they generated a net $10 million from financing. Okay, so they're burning cash from their operations. They have a huge amount of stock-based compensation expense. That's future dilution to the shareholders. And I'm not a big fan of this business. I'm not. Okay, they've been losing money consistently for like 6, 7, 8 quarters. It's not good. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. You got to know what you're buying. You're buying a business that doesn't make money in the hopes that one day it will make money. But I mean, the main encouraging thing I saw was that they pushed out their debt. So they're not imminently heading for bankruptcy. They have some breathing room, but they need to fix their business because even from a cash flow standpoint, they're burning money from their operations. I mean, if they had huge stock-based compensation, but they had positive operating cash flow, it'd be a much easier, better story. But even excluding stock-based compensation, they're still burning more cash from the core business. That's not good. Okay. So they're spending more money on employees and, all this other garbage. And it's not trickling down to the shareholder, which is not good. Okay. So I don't know. Anything could happen. I mean, they could improve their margins, become cash flow positive, but at least they pushed out their long-term debt due until 2029 or a big portion of it. But Hey, I don't know. Not a big fan personally. So that's the live stream for Tandem Diabetes Care. If you want a sponsored video, see the pinned comment below. I also have a book called Stop Being a Broke Loser. It's on Amazon. Go check it out. And if you want a one-on-one tutoring session with the man himself, $75 an hour. See the pinned comment below. Oh, I got a couple comments, and then we'll close this stream. Woo! Do Dollar General stock after massive stock collapse? Dollar Jenny should pay dividends. I want $10,000 a month. That's right. Double. Go, Chris. All right. Thanks, everybody. Check out all my grift services below, and you have a wonderful day. Cheers.